3. Hello and welcome. I'm Colin Daniel from riffninja.com, and this is lesson number 2 out of a series of 3 lessons, and it's all about the most used chords on the guitar. They're used in so many ways, and adding a capo to these chords opens up a whole new door for you. So this is what we're doing with this lesson. Is we're going to do another example using the capo and the chords G, C, and D with just slight substitution that we'll get to in a second. Now, I want to talk to you about a couple things to add to what we've done. And number one thing is that both the last song example and this song are going to be capoed at the 2nd fret. And we're going to be using the G, C, and D, which is the 1, 4, and 5, right? In the key of G major. And the relative minor, E minor, and A minor. And in this example, we don't use the A minor. We just use G, C, and D, and the E minor. There's no rule that says you have to use all the chords that belong in that harmony family or not. And you'll see in a minute, because in lesson number 3, I talk about that. So 1, 4, 5 represents the notes in the scalar key that we're in. If we've got G, C, and D, G is the first note out of the scale, C is the 4th note out of the scale, and D is the 5th. Now it's related to chords, so it becomes the chord progression using 1, 4, and 5 and G, C, and D. And its relative minor is E minor. All major keys have a relative minor, and all minor keys have a relative major. I would consider the last chord progression in lesson number 1 to be in the minor key, because it starts with a minor, and the same with this chord progression coming up. It starts in the minor, and I just wanted to make that really clear. So something about the capo is that I like these adjustable capos, and I briefly mentioned it in the last lesson, but I'm going to go into a little more detail in this one. See, the problem with just the non-adjustable capo with the one spring in it is that sometimes you'll find it hard to find a spot where your guitar sounds in tune as you move it up the fretboard using the capo. But with this tension adjustment capo, I can just run across the strings until I get them all clear, and I don't have to put any more tension on the strings than is needed. So that's the reason why I use this adjustable one. Yeah, it's a little slower. It's not as quick as those capos you grab like that and just bang them up the fretboard wherever you want. But this is much more accurate, so I prefer that. Now, another thing to note, and I mentioned it in brief, is that we've moved the capo up 2 frets. That means technically, you know, our G, C, and D are not G, C, and D anymore, even though we're referring them to that. It's easier to take a look at it that way than it is to say, well, to transpose it in your mind and say, well, G 2 frets higher would be A major. So this technically now with the capo at the 2nd fret would be A major, 2 frets or a tone or a whole step higher, right? Because 2 frets is a whole step, right? So you're taking all the chords, all these open chords, and moving them up a whole step. So the G is technically an A. The C is technically a D. And the D now is technically an E with the capo at the 2nd fret, right? It's just easier to refer to it in that manner. The E minor now becomes F sharp minor, because E to F is a natural semitone. A tone from E will be F sharp because E to F is a natural semitone. So this E minor technically is an F sharp minor, right? But like I said, it's easier to just relate to it as the open chords and know in the back of your mind that it's raised up a tone. That's just for your own information to educate you a little better, because we're trying to raise the bar here and make you a better musician, okay? Now, this example comes from the Joan Osborne song, One of Us, which was a very, very famous song in its day. And it's a very common chord progression. It's E minor, C, G major, and D. Now there's picking, finger picking in it. But the main progression is E minor, C, G, D. And as a bonus, I'm going to teach you the riff that goes with it. Very cool. Now, so I'm going to give you the bonus riff to make this chord progression more interesting, and it's all off of the D major chord. And that's the first movement you need. So it's a D sus 9, which is your second finger off of the D chord. Then it drops back down. And you just pick the first string with your pick on the upstroke while the rest of the chord is ringing. And then pick the next fret up while the chord's still ringing. And then go to the E minor. And then C and G, right? So simply, and I pick through the C and the G, and I only use the top 4 strings. You know, for the C, it's 5, 4, 3. Very cool. One more bonus is the bridge part. This would complete the song for you, so you could go find the original song and learn it. And that's the bridge part, and that's where it comes to a little substitution. Now in the first lesson I talked about you having the C chord with the G bass, and now I really like to use this one. So for the bridge, it goes to a C major 7th, and all you have to do to make a C major 7th is go from the C major chord, take your first finger off, that becomes a C major 7th, and then to the D. So it goes. It does that 3 times. Third and final time, build on the D. Then start again. Back into the main progression. Okay, thanks a lot for your time. Boys and girls, stay out of trouble, practice hard, and we'll see you in the next lesson.